Hello and welcome to my channel. So in today's video, we are going to focus on glycogen metabolism and glucose metabolism. So I have seen students struggling with these terms, which are often confusing. Like for glucose metabolism, we use glycolysis, gluconeogenesis. Similarly, for glycogen metabolism, we use glycogenolysis and glycogenesis. Similarly, glycogen as well as glucose metabolism also has catabolism and anabolism. So in today's video, we are going to focus on how to understand and differentiate when does glycolysis, gluconeogenesis, glycogenesis, and glycogenolysis take place inside our body and what is their significance. So glucose metabolism and glycogen metabolism, it has both the catabolic effects and the anabolic effects. So first thing, when we say gluconeogenesis, so neogenesis means biosynthesis. Gluco means glucose. So simply, if you break down this term, gluconeogenesis, so it means synthesizing new glucose molecules. On the other hand, glycolysis, again, glyco means glucose, and lysis means breakdown. So gluconeogenesis means glucose biosynthesis, and glycolysis means glucose breakdown. For glycogen metabolism, we have glycogen. So if you see these two terms, you will see that glycogen is written in these terms. See, glycogen. Similarly, we have glycogen over here also. So glycogen, and then overlapping term, genesis will come. So glycogen biosynthesis. Then we have glycogenolysis. So glycogen breakdown. So let's understand these four terms first, and then I'll try to connect all these four terms together and make you understand how does it happens inside our body. So first we have gluconeogenesis. Gluconeogenesis refers to synthesis of new glucose molecules from non-carbohydrate precursors such as lactate, amino acids, and glycerol. It provides glucose when dietary intake is insufficient. So basically, when we have to synthesize glucose inside our body, obviously that means that we are not taking glucose from external sources, and the body is in starvation state right now. So in order to supply the requirements of those organs which rely on glucose as their fuel, and they can't take alternative options like fatty acids, such as brain, nervous system, erythrocytes, renal medulla, testis, and embryonic tissues. All of them are dependent on glucose because they can use glucose only as the major fuel. Next pathway we have glycolysis. Glycolysis is the series of reactions that extract energy ATP from glucose by splitting it into 2,3 carbon molecules called pyruvate. So through 2 pyruvates are produced. One molecule of glucose can be split into 2,3 carbon compounds, which can further form 2 pyruvate molecules. In this pathway, 2 ATP are produced. However, this pathway is independent of oxygen, but if it enters a cellular respiration pathway, that is Krebs cycle, electron transport chain, oxidative phosphorylation, one glucose molecule can produce around 30 to 32 ATPs. Next, we have glycogenesis. Glycogenesis is a process through which glycogen is synthesized and glucose molecules are added to the glycogen chains for storage purpose. So we from here we should be able to understand this is a well-fed state. That means body is in the well-fed state just after glycolysis. That is when we had food, the carbohydrate, whatever carbohydrate was present in the food, it got converted into ATP. And when the ATP requirements of the cell were fulfilled, after that this extra glucose was converted to glycogen. This glycogen can be stored in liver as well as in skeletal muscle. Fourth pathway we have glycogenolysis. Glycogenolysis is the pathway in which glycogen breaks down into glucose 1-phosphate and glucose. And this process provides immediate energy and maintains blood glucose levels during fasting. So these are the four states and processes which are usually confusing. Now, glycogenolysis, from whatever I told you right now, it is very clear that this is a starvation state again. When our body is breaking down the stores of glycogen, that means it is a starvation state and body is trying to rely on the internal stores. Now, let's see what happens when a person eats a carbohydrate rich diet. So usually it gets converted into glucose, or if it converts into any other sugar like fructose, galactose, then also it is going to enter the glycolytic pathway only. Now this, whatever glucose is present in the bloodstream right now, it is going to enter each cell of the body. Once it enters the cell, which is obviously through with the help of transporters called glut transporters, inside the cell it is trapped and converted to glucose 6 phosphate with the help of the enzyme hexokinase. And then this glucose 6 phosphate via multiple steps converts into pyruvate, and glucose produces around, if it undergoes a complete oxidation, produces around 30 to 32 ATPs. Now, at this point, if the ATP levels are full, so then what will happen? That extra glucose, which is still entering the cells, instead of converting into ATP, it will start converting into glycogen. So this is the pathway of glycolysis. And once ATP levels are enough that we do not require more, so then what will happen? It will be diverted towards glycogenesis, that is synthesis, biosynthesis of glycogen. This was glycolysis. So this, everything is happening right now in the well-fed state. On the contrary, let's see the starvation state. So what happens inside our body during starvation? When body is starving, a person is not having a diet from outside, or maybe he's not having a carbohydrate rich diet from outside, since carbohydrates are the primary fuel of the body. And what will happen at that time? The first thing will happen is glycogen stores will be broken down to glucose. So now glycogen will break down to glucose. This pathway is called glycogenolysis. Since glycogen stores are limited and we can't rely on glycogen stores for for days and weeks, so then what happens, after let's say 72 hours, or maybe after 3 days or 4 days, when body is still starving, we have some of the organs which I already discussed, like brain, central nervous system, erythrocytes, and many more. They are only dependent on glucose as their fuel, and they won't take any alternate source. For others organs of the body, we have alternative sources, like we have fatty acids, we have amino acid stores, which can break down to produce ATP in emergency conditions. But for these organs like brain, gluconeogenesis will initiate. Now, gluconeogenesis is, as we have already seen, it means biosynthesis of glucose from non-carbohydrate precursors. So whatever non-carbohydrate precursors we have in our body right now, like lactate, glycerol, or pyruvate, they will start converting into glucose. Gluconeogenesis pathway looks like just like reversal of glycolysis. So if you see the pathway of glycolysis and just reverse that pathway, only 3 enzymes are different. Rest all of the enzymes are same, and in fact the pathway also looks similar. So this is how all these 4 pathways are connected, and I hope I was able to solve your confusion. And that's all for the video today. Thanks for watching.